And we are recording. Sarah and Peter, thanks for being here today. My name is Ben Heckman. I am a Pennsylvania State Chair for Young Americans for Liberty, and welcome to episode 2 of Thorns in the Side of. Yeah, that's me. Sarah, you can introduce yourself now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode with Thorns in the Side of. Today we have Peter, our Rhode Island State Chair from Young Americans for Liberty, joining us to talk to you guys about the New York City vaccine mandates and basically the passports that are basically threatening upon people's civil liberties in New York. So Peter, what's up?
Hi, welcome. Glad to be here. Rhode Island State Chair for YAL, as well as a New Yorker, very disgruntled at that, but I'm glad that there's a bit of pushback against Cuomo and all the things happening in the city.
Awesome. Well, before we get really too deep into this, I did want to give a shout out to a certain Broadway actress. My girlfriend made me aware of this story. Shout out to Ariel. So her name is Laura Osnes, and she was kicked off Broadway. She's supposed to be in a major production, and she was kicked off Broadway for openly refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And I just wanted to shout her out because having had some experience in the theater world myself, being a theater kid, it's nothing but a bunch of shit libs. And so I'm glad to see at least one actress is taking a stand and staying on principle. So yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, shout out to Ariel. I love Ariel, by the way. She's a total queen. I miss her. I met her at our last LTS back in January. So that was a crazy time. That was 8 months ago. But yeah, Peter, so we are going to start off by talking about the New York City rally that you attended. So what was going on that day? How did you feel about so many people attending that rally?
I thought it was great. I was a little disheartened that the NYPD carted us off, so we're not right in front of the mansion, but we were right near the entrance, so we couldn't see at his window and scream at him directly. But there were a lot of people, and I'm sure he heard some of us with all of our speakers, both physical speakers as well as different keynote speakers they had come on down. It was great. It was kind of in a corner. So it was off on one side, off on another side, and a pretty imposing force on the usually liberal neighborhood that we were marching on. So it was a great time. A lot of great speakers, and it was just something we really needed to do.
So can you tell us a little, just for context's sake, how did this protest come about? Who organized it? Groups, individuals, and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the main people in charge of it, one of the co-organizers, who sadly could not be with us here today, is the New York State Chair for YAL. That would be Mike Caprio. He worked in conjunction with the Young Republicans of New York, as well as the New York Populist League, which is based out of Queens. So they all came together and said, we need to do something to change. They've been working on different events in the coming months. 2 days after that, or day after that, they did a march on, I believe it is the New York Public Library. New York Museum of History, because there was a protest because they wanted to get rid of Theodore Roosevelt statue because he promoted racism or something of the sort. So they've been doing a lot around the city, and this was one of their keynote events of the summer, to basically go in front of de Blasio's house and basically be like, hey, we see what you're doing, and we think it's unjust.
That's amazing. That is exactly what I do with my rally at Rutgers University. And I feel it's so needed in this type of environment, especially within the states of New York and New Jersey. Our governors are probably the worst governors who have ever existed. Well, besides from Whitmer and Newsom. But honestly, this is what was needed. And I'm so proud of you attending this rally, because it takes a lot of guts to attend this type of rally. I've had members who who basically I had a head count of like a lot of people from my chapter going to my rally, but then they all called out because they were just scared. They were scared of standing up and saying no. But like, I'm just so proud of you. And plus, like, being like a new state chair and like a new leader in your community, like, it takes a lot of guts to actually go out there and be like, I'll say no because this is who I am. I'm a leader and I have to represent my people. And like, kudos to you. Like, that's amazing. And yes, huge shout out to Mike Caprio, our New York State Chair, for co-organizing this event. Like, I'm very proud of him. Like, I remember I told him when de Blasio basically mandated all this stuff, I'm like, dude, you have to organize a rally. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And then he got right on it. And he's like, all right, I'm organizing this. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say thank you. But at the same time, I feel like even for us, as well as the different viewers, though we are all here, we're all state chairs at the same time. All of us have one voice. And if we all work together to fight for what's right, that really shouldn't matter at the end of the day. It's coming together and standing for what's right. So the viewer, you may not have a specific fancy title, but you have a community, you have a family, you have a voice. So as long as you work for basically spreading liberty and freedom and for what you believe is right, and that's all anyone can really do at the end of the day.
Awesome. So I have another question. So basically, was there any setback that like all the groups like basically witnessed at the rally? Like, was there any police officers that were basically trying to like censor them or like trying to stop them from doing this rally? Like, was there any pushbacks?
There was no pushback from the NYPD. They were very helpful, very accommodating. They made sure everything went off without a hitch. There was one minor problem, that being its specific group. I'm not sure the specific acronym, but they were basically people against police brutality. And they were kind of towards like the corner of the rally, trying to instigate. Later on, once all the entire wonderful rally dispersed, there was some minor, verbal sparring between them and other people. But at the end of the day, it went off pretty well, to my knowledge.
That's amazing.
I just wanted to ask, on top of that, like, what was the turnout? Like, how many people showed up to this? Would you say, like, maybe a ballpark?
It was basically, New York, how they all have like the different intersections.
Mm-hmm.
The intersection itself is where all the keynote speakers were, as well as all like the main organizers of the event. And from that, it fishtailed into two different sides. I was only on one side, and there was at least, some people came, some people left. There was at least, I'd say, maybe 150 people on my side.
Wow.
Holy shit.
And on the other side, I like, from what I could see, was much more compact.
Wow.
So at least maybe that like and a half or even double. But so yeah, a big turnout.
Yeah, that's really reassuring for me, just because, you don't really see the media covering anything like this. I mean, I don't know if you guys got much media coverage, if at all. I guess that could be my next question. But when the news started coming out about the mandates in New York City, I mean, I was personally under the impression that there would be very little pushback within New York City itself. I've been there a few times, and definitely a very, very pro-government area,
Yeah. There was some news coverage. I believe they did. They tried to broadcast it as much as they could. And in regards to news, I think there were different news sources, but a lot of them, what I was told, is of the unsavory variety. So we didn't speak to them as much. But there was Newsmax going around interviewing some people, like how they would describe de Blasio. So there was some coverage. Hopefully there's more in the future. But as of now, that's really all there was.
Yeah, like the media tends to basically cover all this stuff up because nobody wants to hear about rallies against a powerful mayor or rallies against this powerful city that's obviously doing something incredibly wrong. And so I guess my next question is, so do you know anyone that got interviewed by like Newsmax or like anybody? Like, did you see like any of the speakers getting like interviewed by people?
Not to my knowledge. They were at the area and they were kind of quartered off with like metal bars. Again, they took every precaution. It was very safe. They did a great job at the event. But there wasn't a lot of interaction in the beginning. But towards the middle and end, some of the speakers came out of there and were doing different interviews with different podcasts. Newsmax talked to at least a couple dozen people. But there was a lot of, it seemed to be more grassroots and more small media coverages looking at the event, which I think is good because a lot of people will look at the big media ones, but how do you get exposure without going to big events such as this? So it gave a good opportunity for more independent news media, which I feel like we need more of in the narrative nowadays. It gave them more ability to interview and to cover.
Exactly. And like I saw this video of like I think it was Caprio who took this video, but he was behind some like guy that was speaking, and there was like a few hundred people like standing around the guy while he was speaking. I think his name is Gavin. I forgot his last name, but like I think he's the New York Young Republicans, and he was just basically giving a speech about why this mandate's terrible and why small businesses are going to start hurting again due to this mandate. And like I just found it so inspirational because like we need hundreds of those people there protesting against the city. Like, did the mayor actually send out like anything? I mean, like, did the mayor say anything about this rally, or did he just cover it up?
To my knowledge, nothing was said by him regarding the rally, which I honestly don't know if I can blame him because it wouldn't exactly look like a perfect thing on his front lawn, no less. So yeah.
So I think I saw on, it was either Twitter or Facebook, I don't remember, that Rudy Giuliani's son was there. So I think that's a pretty like well-known speaker to have, in my opinion. You're definitely going to draw a crowd with someone like that. Who were some of the other speakers, and can you tell me about the experience you guys had with them?
Yeah, of course. Giuliani's son was there, and he was a great speaker, very passionate. There were some people were like the speakers, and other people didn't. So sometimes there was more of a, I guess, confliction between the two, I guess, groups, if you will, of people who are like pro vaccine and anti-vaccine. But again, at the end of the day, we're all anti-mandate.
Yeah.
Other people who were there was New York City Councilman Joe Borelli, Manhattan GOP Chairman AJ Canamintis, political commentator Ashley St. Clair, and a slew of other great speakers that we had the pleasure to listen to.
Cool. Yeah, that's definitely a little bit annoying to see people get so divisive based on, those lines. Really, all that matters right now, in my opinion, and a lot of what I've been calling for personally is unity on issues that we agree with, regardless of what your actual ideology is. And so at least they were still able to come together, though, and oppose it together. And at least that didn't fracture it too much,
Yeah.
Cool. So sounds like there was a lot of interesting speakers and the groups that worked to make this happen are definitely noteworthy. I'm curious, just as a member of the Libertarian Party myself, was there any Libertarian Party of New York representation? Did anyone from the LP show up at all?
Not that I'm aware of. For the most part, there were a lot of speakers, so some of them could have been, but fully registered libertarians, I'm not quite sure of. At the end of the day, it was one of the big people for organizing the event was Young Republicans of New York. So it was mainly just Republican and conservative.
Okay, I'm only asking because one of my biggest problems with the Libertarian Party personally is how unwilling they are to actually engage with activism. All they really care about is ballot initiatives, and that's something that me and a lot of folks in the Mises caucus are trying to change about the party. So that's all. I just wanted to ask you that question.
Big props to the Mises caucus, by the way. I feel like they're probably the most impactful part of the LP, because the LP itself, as you said, Ben, they're very unwilling to take action or do change. I remember when I organized a rally, the LP was on board, but then they instantly bailed.
Really?
So yes, they instantly bailed. So I was like, screw it. So I found New Jersey Stands Up, and I basically worked with the Turning Point chapter at Rutgers, and also my chapter as well. And we were like, screw it, we're just gonna put it on ourselves. And like, it just makes me sad because the people in the New Jersey Libertarian Party, like, they are so intelligent, like they know what they're talking about. But if you fail to put that initiative into action, then what are you really gaining?
Yeah, this is what my friend Magnus has been saying forever now. And shout out to Magnus Panvidya, pretty well known Boogaloo boy.
Oh yeah, Magnus. Hi, Magnus.
He's been saying for a long time now that the Libertarian Party needs to be more like how the Black Panther Party was back during the Civil Rights Movement, because they really focused, like, regardless of what you think about their stances on issues, they were working in the community to directly help people in need and proving that you didn't need the government to do that.
Yeah.
And the Libertarian Party is supposed to be an anti-government organization. I just would like to see more of that out of them. Luckily, in Pennsylvania, the Mises Caucus of the LP in Pennsylvania is organizing 3 anti-vaccine mandate and mask mandate protests in September, which I like to see.
Awesome. So, Peter, what do you think about the LP?
I feel like the Libertarian Party, it has a long way to come. And I see what you mean, Ben, in regards to they need to be more passionate. I feel like it was mentioned at Rev quite a lot, but there's such a distinction and thought in the society nowadays of like the spoiled milk libertarian, where they're kind of like there and you know they're there, but you really don't want to associate them with that much, almost like a vermin supreme kind of figurehead. Whereas if you actually look at the candidates that are fighting for pro-libertarian values, you'll see it's nothing like what's portrayed in the culture. So I feel like one big thing we need to work on is, I guess, optics, if you will, and to basically change our cultural image to something that like represents truer of who we are. No hate against Vermin Supreme. Everyone should get ponies. But at the same time, I feel like it's something that we need to overcome in the narrative in order to move forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I'm always open to work with the LP. In fact, like, I had basically gone out of my way and invite people from the New Jersey LP to Revolution 2021. Any event that I'm planning, I invite them. And they're like, no, like, I'll send them my petitions that I have against Rutgers and Fairleigh Dickinson, both of my schools, by the way. And they'll be like, no, I mean, there's no point of you sending this petition to me. And I'm just like, but why not? Don't you want to work with me to bring change the way change can be made? Like,
no, they only care about their social debate club, because that's
oh
what
my
it
God.
is. That's what
yeah.
it is.
I don't mean to shit on my friends in the New Jersey LP. Like, Mike Rufo is an amazing guy and he would help me out so many times. But like, we just really need to work together. Like, I'm willing to work with you. Why can't you work with me?
Yeah. Luckily, I've been able to YAL pill a lot of LP libertarians.
That's good. Okay. So basically, I guess, Peter, my next question is, why do you think, why should the COVID vaccine not be mandated within within all these small businesses?
Actually, before we get on to the mandates, I wanted to ask one more question about
the that's totally
if that's okay. Sorry, Sarah.
It's okay.
Just a simple question. Were there any counter protesters? Was there any like Antifa presence there, or was there any people claiming to be counter protesting fascism or whatever there?
No. The only uproar was that before mentioned people against police brutality. But I did hear whispers that they were recording a lot of people because they thought they were suspicious individuals. So an interesting group, but they didn't do anything and cause too much of a ruckus during the actual event in and of itself, which was from 3:30 to 5:30.
So were they there in support or in opposition to the mandates?
I think they, to my knowledge, I believe they were only there as a protest against the police presence that was there to protect us. So they were more like a byproduct than like a formal protest against us.
That's good.
Yeah.
And for a liberal town, like, wow, that's actually really good.
That's a lot of anti-authoritarianism in one place, especially for a place like New York City.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
know. That is just insane. But yeah, I guess back to my question. It's okay. So, Peter, why do you think the COVID vaccine shouldn't be mandated? Like, what exactly is going on? Like, can you tell us more about the policies that the mayor implemented amongst his people?
I feel like this isn't talked about a lot, but to show how like vaccines are like hurting New York as well as small businesses, I feel like a lot of no one goes back to it, but you have to go back to June. Not a lot of people like read about this, and I really didn't see it in the news at all. But do you know about the New York Heroes Act?
No.
I heard of it.
Yeah. So the New York Heroes Act, basically, if you read into the nitty gritty of it, which I have, you basically have to contact trace all your employees in your company, and you have to notify them within a ridiculous amount of time, I believe 12 hours. And one of my jobs, I do this professionally, and I look into contact tracing. There are very few companies that can pull this off because it needs to be electronic, because you need to be able to basically pull in and aggregate the data from all the people that may have been exposed to COVID. And you have to show them, you have to notify them so they stay home and so you protect your company. Well, this is all fair and good. And the companies that do them work very well. They're not free. They're not subsidized by the government. Small businesses are required to take this on without having any additional financial support. The only financials that are listed within the New York Heroes Act is that you'll be fined every week if you don't have a system in place against this. So this is almost like the bedrock to what we're seeing now with the specific vaccine mandates and the different vaccine passports, if you will, requiring small businesses to check and ensure that all their patrons also are immunized to the COVID-19 virus. So when you think about it like this, a lot of small businesses are left exposed to the ability of being heavily fined by the state. And at the same time, they need all their patrons to secure a vaccine passport. So if they don't, the New York City Department of Health is able to look into this and say, you're not doing this, this, and this, you're being fined. If you don't have a passport, you're being fined. So to go back to how hurting small business in and of itself, it's basically leaving them open to basically disastrous circumstances. In regards to specific people, if you look at the statistics, a lot of the minorities in the city, it's only 30% that have been immunized. And with that being said, the 30% cannot access places like gyms or small businesses or libraries or bookstores or literally anything else. And I can see the facade of importance this has for the city in basically saying, we're doing this for your own good, we're doing this to help you. But at the same time, is it really truly helping human life? Because what is the cost of a human life? You look at different tweets like from the US military, and it says COVID-19 is the biggest threat to the US military forces today. Annual suicide is far higher than the COVID-19 vaccine deaths, but this is being prioritized higher. New York City is supposed to be the greatest city on earth, which I do think we have potential. No offense, other cities. But at the same time, if you can't go and experience and, help small businesses to what makes New York City strong, if you're not able to do all of this, you're just going to see a total internal collapse. And it's just going to go back to the crime-ridden city that you saw in the 60s. So to answer your question, these vaccines are bad for the people, the city, the state, as well as the nation as a whole.
So the way I understand it, and maybe you can provide more context and more information, but there are essentially two different passport type things in New York right now. There's the statewide one that Cuomo implemented that is optional, and then there is the citywide one implemented by de Blasio that is not optional. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you worry that something like this is going to spread outside of New York City? I mean, it is already happening in places like San Francisco, but you worry that this is coming pretty much to every major city?
I'm not really worried, more as I'm kind of secure in the fact that this will spread. Just like the COVID-19, it too will spread based out of fear, which people want to feel secure. They want to feel safe. And while I do see that's all fine and good, at the same time, there are a lot of people that are unable to do this, and you're just throwing them to the curb in the sake of safety. That isn't right. We're given the opportunity to get life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we can't do either of those if, let's just say, you have an autoimmune disease that prevents you from getting the COVID-19 vaccine. If there's nothing in your power to do this, but you're still being blocked out of society, what recourse do you have?
Has there been anything said by the New York City government about those who are not able to get the vaccine because it could have an effect on their health, or someone with like a religious exemption?
It's kind of, to my knowledge, it's basically you have to just deal with it. With the religious exception and the autoimmune, it's bureaucracy, it's legislation. So if there are any legal loopholes, they're going to take a heck of a long time to actually get passed. And so basically, they're not saying you have no recourse, but at the same time, if you're piled under like a slew of paperwork, it hinders the ability to go and live life.
That's insane. So basically, I'm just making sure there's no exemptions, or they're just saying you have to deal with it. Because
there might be some, but I think you'd have to go with the paperwork, and you'd have to go through our favorite thing, bureaucracy, and have to go through the whole system. So it's technically there's no recourse, but if there is, it's incredibly hard to get through it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I just heard like a few days ago there was like 5 businesses, small businesses actually in New York City that actually sued basically the town for mandating this vaccine. Did you hear about that?
Yes, because you shared the article with me, I think.
I did? Yeah. Oh my God. Oops.
Yeah, no, but I'm glad people are doing that. They have to stand up for like what should be human decency.
Yeah, like we're having that too at Rutgers. So recently, I think I also shared this too. So when I shared it with Peyton, by the way, basically what happened is that there's a lawsuit against Rutgers University filed by CHD, Children's Health Defense. And there's going to be like 5 plaintiffs, and they're suing Rutgers University for the vaccine mandate. Nice. Because once again, Rutgers is a public university that takes taxpayer dollars and is basically public, and they're very anti-free speech. I've been trying to get a free speech victory there forever. And so hopefully we get around it soon. But like, it's ridiculous. We're having that case against Rutgers too. So I'm so happy that there's people that are actually standing up against this and taking the legal way out.
So, I don't know. I think the way I think about this is it seems to me a lot of hesitancy to actually get the jab is because the government is forcing us, at least in most places, maybe not really forcing us, but like pseudo forcing us in a way. You know what I mean? It seems to me like if I was concerned about the health of the population, I didn't want these people to get COVID. I would want to make them as comfortable and as reassured as possible when doing this. And it seems to me like you might actually have more people voluntarily getting the jab and wearing masks if it wasn't forced, because Americans just don't like the government telling them what to do. I don't know. That's just a theory that I have.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, sorry, Peter, I'll let you go, then I'll talk.
Oh, no, I completely understand that. At the same time, I feel like there are a lot of hesitancies by a lot of specific communities. There's, say, the religious community, and I have a lot of friends that use religious exemption to go against my university who are highly recommending that they get the vaccine. So there are a bunch of people, and there are a bunch of reasons why you would want to do this and wouldn't want to do this. So at the same time, there are a bunch of, I see what you mean, but I feel like there are a lot of there's a lot of niche groups across the country that have specific reasons for doing as such. Some could be completely unfounded from fact, but as Americans, we are stubborn and we believe what we believe. So I see what you mean in like not forcing it, but at the same time, there will always be some groups that will resist any form of change.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I was going to say is that I have a lot of members at Rutgers and also other members at other universities that I basically like oversee as a state chair. And they all tell me, Sarah, if this vaccine was enforced, I would have been more likely to get it. And here's why, because we're just so tired, especially in state New Jersey, of people like overreaching and overstepping people's boundaries. Like it is overstepping if you were forcing someone to get vaccinated. It's overstepping if you're forcing someone to wear a mask. You give the government an inch, the government takes a mile. And it's been shown so many times in the last year and a half. And way before that, if you take a look at history, like history just repeats itself and it's repeating itself again. So I feel like, I mean, personally, I think the vaccine like is effective. Like, I mean, personally, I did receive the vaccine and I'm fully vaccinated because it's my personal private choice, but I wasn't forced. I made that decision by myself. But my members, they feel as if they're being forced upon their will because of how Rutgers came about it and how other universities came about it. Like if we basically stopped for a second and thought about how people would react and like how people like perceive this vaccine, then we should only recommend it, not mandate it. Because if you give the government an inch, they take a mile. And that's what Rutgers is showing. Because number one, they mandated the vaccination. And Johnson & Johnson's is next door to like George Street. I literally drove past it today and there was like a bunch of trucks everywhere. So it's Johnson & Johnson is next door, and it's no secret that they're having a deal right now. So we couldn't push back against this vaccine mandate, but we're pushing back against the mask mandate because we're just tired of Rutgers overstepping. We're tired of Rutgers making the decisions that we can make.
I wanted to ask you, Pete, what are your thoughts on the thought process that, well, you know, they're a private business, you know, they can do what they want, you know, if they want to mandate that their employees get this vaccine, you know, that's their right. I'll just go give my money to the other business that's not doing that. What's your take on a thought process like that?
I feel like to look back in history, I feel like we've already legally set a precedence that supports that. I guess the most notable of them being the gay cake incident. You understand what I'm referring to? Where basically this couple came in, asked for a cake to be made for their same-sex wedding, and they said, "I'm a Christian bakery. I refuse to do as such. I'll be willing to do anything else, but that I will not do." And the Supreme Court affirmed that they are a small business and they have the right to do as such. So to go like that and reverse it on its head and basically say, if you want to come into my establishment, you need a mask, you need a vaccine. Me personally, I feel like it's their business, it's their service, it's their choice.
Fair enough. I guess I don't really know exactly where I stand on that yet. My inclination is to support private businesses, doing what they want. I am a hardcore supporter of freedom of association. That's for sure. I'm really cautious when it comes to these mandates, just because would the private businesses be mandating them if the government wasn't doing what it's currently doing? Like, is that not just another byproduct of the state? And I kind of view it as a form of fascism. I really do. And so because it's a lot of big corporations that are doing it as well. If it was just like a small mom and pop shop doing it, I would totally be more on the side of this is a private business doing what they want. I don't agree, but that's their right. But right now we have major corporations that have been in bed with the government for decades doing this. And to me, that's like the most concerning part is right now to oppose the government is to oppose big business. You can't really oppose either like independently right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, so basically the way I see it is that private businesses have the right to basically tell people or basically give out these rules and regulations. And like if you want to be basically a customer of this private business, you can either follow it or you can get out. I mean, as a libertarian, I basically support private businesses and I support whatever they want to do. Like, if you simply just do not agree with what they're doing, then you can just either go to another business that offers the same resources, that offers the same benefits. Like, it's not that hard. But I also see it as a view of fascism as well. If the government is mandating the vaccine, then the private business on top of that is mandating the vaccine. It is a direct repeat of history that we are seeing. And like I said, history repeats itself. And we have the chance as leaders in our community to step up and say no. And that's what I've been preaching for the last 8 months. You have to step up and say no.
And I think it's important to note here that just because something is a piece of private property, that somebody owns their business, someone owns this or that as their private property, that does not always mean it's legitimate, because how is that private property acquired? Too many conservatives and libertarians, in my opinion, are just like, well, it's private, private's always better than public. But I mean, how much private property has been acquired by people who have benefited from taxation, who have benefited from the military industrial complex, on and on and on about all that, so yeah, that's what I would have to say about that. Another question for you, Pete.
We're asking Peter so many questions.
Yeah,
like, what?
That's why he's on the show. We got to learn.
He's our amazing guest star.
Yeah. So let me read the question again, because I just forgot it. Has your day-to-day life been affected by these mandates yet? If so, how? If you're comfortable sharing.
Luckily for me, not necessarily, no. My school is heavily suggesting all of our students get the vaccine, but at the same time, they're not enforcing it. We can use religious exemption. They are a Catholic institution, so they are kind of bound by that, even though at the same time, the Archbishop did say that some vaccines are good, others aren't. Pfizer is good, but Johnson & Johnson and the specific one that use stem cells are more off the table for more of the religiously inclined. Me personally, in my day-to-day, I live in New York, but I'm on the island in the home of Zeldin. So the very and only really red part of the state. So I really haven't experienced anything in person. In specific places, like I can go to Target without a mask, but the more mom and pop shops will be like, hey, can you please wear a mask? I won't be like, of course. Like, this is your business. You're giving us the privilege of getting your service, so we'll do that for you. Whereas if I go to Target, I'm like, are you going to kick me out? Which they won't, because, again, a lot of them are either high school or college students that really don't care. And if they enforce it, they're probably being enforced by their manager. So I'm not really too concerned, at least in my neck of the woods.
That's amazing. Yeah, I also live in a red county, by the way, Monmouth County. That's in the central Jersey part of New Jersey, obviously. And I don't see a lot of people wearing masks. I don't see a lot of people being forced or upon the will, because I live in my neighborhood is full of a bunch of Republicans. And so it's pretty nice, honestly. These people are not imposing on each other's rights. But there's barely any private businesses in my area, especially where I live, which is in Freehold, that are basically forcing people to wear masks. Even the private businesses, they're not enforcing people to do anything. They're just letting people walk in and do whatever, because mostly everyone here is basically a Republican or a conservative. I love my town. So yeah, there's not much imposing upon my rights, but I'm seeing a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of this, everything happening at my university and happening all over the state, including both private and public institutions. And the real question is why? Why aren't there more students speaking up? And I guess that's where I come in, and I find all these activists and I inspire them to speak up. I tell them about what I did, my story, and that's how I get them into speaking up. And I believe that speaking up is the most important thing, because even if you aren't directly impacted, you need to stand up for the people that are.
I know my school at Millersville University in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. This is more of it feels like over the summer, because I live here during the summer, it's very red. But when the students come in, it's purple as hell. Because I work at, I won't say where, but I work somewhere in this town. And it's a really even split of like people coming in without a mask on, and then a college student double masking. It's quite interesting to see. And I know that my school was complaining, or at least our president went on the news and was complaining that they are not allowed to mandate any vaccines because they're a publicly funded school in part. But because this is about, I think, should be FDA approved by at least Monday, is what I've heard.
Yeah.
That they will be legally allowed to mandate pretty much whatever they want. So I'm definitely preparing for that, hoping for the best, preparing to be the most hated person at my school, much like Sarah Rossi.
I am the most hated person at my school right now. Like oh my God, guys, today I actually got not really banned. I got reported on Snapchat for posting my petition against the mask mandate. And I was like,
Crazy.
wait, why am I logged out of Snap? And I look at Snap and they're like, oh, you violated our policy. And I'm like, what the fuck? So apparently I looked back at who blocked you, and it was 2 people from Rutgers University. So it's starting and it's not going to be
Christ.
fun.
Isn't that like a requirement to be a state chair? You have to be hated by at least your university, maybe some neighboring ones.
Yeah,
you have to at least either be handcuffed or basically cornered by the police at a rally. Yeah.
Yup.
It's going to be very fun, Peter. And yeah, don't you go to a private school too?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So
they are very nice though.
Let's
Like
go.
I know a lot of people will defend their school, but at the same time, like they're pretty open-minded when it comes to like the religious exemption, as well as trying to give back to their students. So, yeah. But you or I plan on fighting. That
yes. Our like motto in our region is like sue the schools and fight these bureaucrats. Like that is what everybody wants to do this semester. Like all of our state chairs, and we're just ready to fight.
Look, I just think that this is, if there was ever any hill that should be died on, it's these. It is the mandates. It is the passport mandates.
It's screwed.
Because people that I really admire have used this term to describe New York City right now, but it's an apartheid state. What you have is a 2-tier caste system. You have unvaccinated people who do not have the same amount of liberties as vaccinated people. That's what an apartheid state is. This time it's just based on vaccination status.
Yeah.
And if we allow this to spread out of major cities, because in my opinion, if you care about liberty, you should do everything you can to get as far away from a major city as you can. I think things are about to get a lot worse than they already are. But if we allow this to spread outside of major cities, we're looking at another level of tyranny that I don't think are used to or are really able to admit to ourselves is on the horizon. What do you think about that, Pete?
Oh, I think that's very fair. I feel like just if you look at the grand scheme of, I even say life, it is in a lot of people's best interest to maybe move further out away from the cities for like the spread of things such as this. Different threats we've seen to, say, the food chain, because it happened with beef earlier this year, then it happened with pork.
There's
recently.
a Gatorade shortage right now.
Huh. I mean, that's less of a sustenance for me, but for others, I can see that is.
I'm losing my
quite
mind, man.
You drink Gatorade?
Yeah, I love Gatorade.
Gross.
You don't like
Iced
Gatorade?
coffee is better though.
I mean, they serve different purposes, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Like, oh my God, this is just insane.
Next
Wait, I'm
it'll
sorry.
be coffee. Who is to say? Next, it could be coffee. Who is to say?
That's the final
if
straw.
It is. I am going to riot.
Yeah, no, if that happens, then I'm going full, like, I'm an anarchist, right? But like, I'm not like a Molotov cocktail anarchist, but if the coffee supply chain gets fucked with even a little bit,
Wait, I have another question here, but this is off topic. But are you like, how would you just define yourself politically? Like, would you say you're a libertarian? Would you say you're a conservative, or like a mix, or an anarchist?
I guess conservatarian.
Okay, that's where I am right now, actually. I think we actually talked about this at Rev. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ben's an anarchist, so he's trying to make me into an anarchist, but I'm like, it's not happening.
I want to, every time someone tells me they're a conservatarian, I just want to know like what they think that means specifically, because I don't know. And I hear, every time I ask someone that, I hear completely different things. Like I asked someone once who told me they were a conservatarian, like what they thought about like the police, and they told me that, well, they support the police because of the non-aggression principle. And in my opinion, from an anarchist perspective, that doesn't make any sense to me. I've also heard other conservatarians denounce the police as well. But that's just that issue in particular. What do you think defines a conservatarian?
I feel like you have to go in that order: conservative and then libertarian. At least for me, personally, the biggest doctrine that I'll follow, I'm a Christian, so it will be the Bible, which is heavily rooted in conservative values. And then from there, it'll be libertarian. At least for me, I do support the police. A large majority of my family has been related to or has been in the NYPD. So I'm very pro-police, given that regard, as well as at the end of the day, they're there, like a lot of people that will join up in the force, they're not there to hurt people. They're doing this because they see a way to help protect their community, and this is the best way they know how. There's a lot of bureaucracy, as in a lot of places, given with a lot of rules. There's a lot of bureaucracy within the police force, and a lot of people have been upset about it. But at the same time, a large majority of the people going in there don't see this as a way to like use their power, but they just want to help their community, and this is the best way they know how.
How do you, I'm curious then, if we see an increase in like NYPD officers enforcing these mandates and shutting down small businesses and all this, which I anticipate, would you say that it's probably time, if that really becomes a thing, should good officers quit their job?
I believe so. It also depends on the demographic you're looking at, because if a lot of people are going to support things like this, I don't know how many NYPD will leave, because a lot of people, they see this is the greater good. They signed up for the greater good. They're fighting every day for their lives for the greater good. And if this vaccine mandate is for the greater good, this is what they'll fight to defend. I feel like in this regard, you can't really grapple that as well as liberty, as we've been discussing in this podcast thus far. But if someone does care about small businesses, I feel like it'd be hard. But if you could either get reassigned, because that's how NYPD works. Like if you don't want to be in one part, you just get reassigned to another division. My aunt who just retired, she was in the force and she had kids. She got moved to the medical wing. So you can move around. So I wouldn't say necessarily just quit in a fit of rage, but if you were to at least just try and you move somewhere else in the bureaucracy where you can do good for your community, that's what I would recommend. Because if you have that passion, that fire to help your community, you can bring that elsewhere. If not, run for local office. But just as long as you're doing something to help your community, I feel like that's, at the end of the day, that's what everyone should really aim to be doing.
Oh yeah, and so much good can be done with a good cop. Like a good cop can really change their community if they refuse to enforce an unjust law or something like that. Do you have faith in other police departments throughout the country if this becomes a lot more widespread, the mandates? Do you have faith that there will be at least a significant enough amount of opposition from enforcers of the law when it comes to this?
I feel like it, as is a lot of things, it depends on a state by state matter. I look at a lot of police forces around the nation today. At least a good chunk of them are focusing more of their time on optics and less focusing on, say, the different issues that are facing both the community as well as their own force. While optics is good and it's nice to be loved by the community, we all want to be loved at the end of the day. Or feared, up to you. But at the end of the day, I feel like there are some people that will take optics and what they believe is right above what they believe is right other than people's personal freedoms, but it obviously, I feel like it has to be on a state-by-state basis. I feel like police in, say, California might be a bit more enforcing of that than, say, Montana. So, yeah.
Fair, yeah.
That's crazy. Like, I mean, also, like, I wanted to add in, like, I also identify as a conservatarian too, but like, this is where Peter and I differentiate, though. Like, I was actually kind of surprised. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm actually like back the blue, but I basically tend to realize, especially in New Jersey, our police, like, the police officers are very corrupt here. And there's so many reasons why. Because one time I got a very bad ticket, and like, he actually added on 2 other tickets one time when he pulled me over. And there's other times where they would actually, like, some of our crime rates in this town are actually kind of high as well. They've gotten better over the years, but when I was in middle school, it was really bad. And our police department has gotten better, but there's a difference between a bad cop and a good cop. So I wouldn't say I'm exactly 100% back the blue, but like, what I would say is that, yes, I respect cops, but I push for police reform because I see how cops basically impact my neighborhood and how cops basically impact the state of New Jersey. Because in New Jersey, our police like, our police are kind of corrupt over here. So it's kind of a mess.
State-by-state basis, yeah.
Yeah, it's based on a state-by-state basis. Like, they're terrible here. Like, it's bad. The crime rates, especially in Trenton, which is what I call the swamp. Like, DC's the swamp, but Trenton's also the second swamp. It's bad. The crime rates are super high in Camden, which is by Philly, and then also in Newark. It's really bad.
I want to leave off with this last question because I know we're coming up towards the end here, and I know
yeah.
you have something after this.
Wow.
Would you how do I put this? Would you support? Okay, what kind of police reform do you support, if any at all?
Who, me or Peter?
Oh, Pete.
There has been a large push, and a lot of people have. It's been discussed in the narrative, but sadly, not a lot has happened. You look at, say, the campaign with Andrew Yang for police reform. I feel like that is a pretty spot-on one that I would support, where it's basically focusing on improving the ability of cops to basically say, I see corruption, how can I help? There's not a lot of support hotlines or different places that cops can go, and they know that quantifiable change will happen once talking to these people. Again, it's a bureaucracy, and they'll put in their report, this is terrible, and then it'll get placed on a shelf, and it will sit there, and then more files will go on top, and it's just, it's ineffectual. So ineffectual reporting to help cops basically retain their integrity for their own forces.
Do you support repealing qualified immunity?
I feel like it depends on the situation.
All right. Well, if there are, Sarah, if you have any final thoughts.
I can't think of anything. I just want to say thank you, Peter, for joining us. Like,
glad to be here.
Dude, you are amazing. Like, I told you do so well today. But like, honestly, yeah, Peter is our new Rhode Island State Chair, and he's going to like hopefully sue some schools, and he's a great guy. So you guys should follow him. Peter, do you like want to give out your Twitter, your social media, so our viewers can follow you?
Sure. It's PTSEM on Instagram. It's the one I'm mainly active on. So.
Do you have Twitter?
Yeah.
I do.
You gotta shout that out because that's what I mainly use.
All right. Tsemberides.
Okay.
It's my last name, so it might be a bit easier.
That's amazing.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it, so that's good.
But yeah, Peter, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. Like, I don't have any other questions. I can't think of anything off the top of my mind. But like, honestly, thank you so much, and keep up the good fight. Also, major shout out to Michael Caprio for co-organizing this rally and inviting Peter. I really wish I was at the rally, but I was there in spirit, and I was like, oh my God, my boys are taking on a rally. Let's freaking go. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on, and thank you so much for all that you're doing to raise awareness about these mandates, and thanks for all your work as a state chair. I'm glad to be a colleague of yours. So yeah, if you have any final thoughts, Pete, you'd like to share before we end this broadcast.
I'm just glad that people like you are starting a narrative where people can talk about the different things liberty-minded, especially on the East Coast. And I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys help make liberty win.
Hell yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the second episode of Thorns in the Side of. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next Saturday. This will be uploaded, or this will be uploaded tomorrow, this coming Saturday. The next episode will be next Saturday. So,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like and follow us on Twitter at Titso Podcast. And that does it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Right.